Welcome to the Paris on the Potomac show, broadcasting from Jefferson County, West Virginia. And on this, what day is it, by the way, Karen
It
Valentine?
is
30th?
May 30th,
Um,
and
May
the
30th.
year is 2025.
And the year is 2022.
So if you're a woman or someone of color, or a lot of other groups now, you may feel like it is 20, I don't know, maybe 1825.
1825, right. Right when Colonel Jackson was down the mighty Mississippi. Right.
Just saying, I don't know.
Well, anyway, I'm yes, it's grim. Let's everything about the political situation is grim. The judges are trying to looks like they're trying to slow him down. And I hope
Yes.
I hope they can prevail, but it's looking it's very interesting, the economy contracted in the first quarter like a very small amount, like 0.2% or something like that. But
Right.
it was a contraction. And the only thing that offset it was it's very interesting. It's a really interesting thing that really offset it was the fact that when Trump threatened the tariffs, these companies went out and bought a whole lot of stuff at the pre-tariff prices. Okay,
Hmm.
and it pushed up the GDP and GNP numbers, enough
Okay. That makes a
to
lot of sense.
offset the down thing that happened in terms of people getting nervous and not buying as much and shit like that.
Right, right, right. That makes
Uh,
perfect sense.
and so anyway, but nonetheless, I mean, now that it's gotten even more chaotic, I understand now there's a special trading uh, regime on Wall Street called Taco.
Hmm.
Which is Trump always chickens out.
Oh, interesting.
So this is a deal where whenever he announces a tariff and the stock market tanks, the investors go in and pick up the
Basically, don't
cheap
believe
stuff,
anything he says.
and
Yeah.
then when it gets to the top, they sell it, and then it goes back down again, and they buy stuff at the bottom. They make money on each of these
Well,
taco
this is
trades.
all great for the wealthy, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of I mean, and now Trump came out and got furious because they were making him look like a, chicken shit, right? So, anyway, and but so I'm encouraged about that part. I can't say that the overall course of the country and world is getting much better. The thing against foreign students and immigrants, and now the Chinese are going to send every Chinese student home that has any connection with the Chinese Communist Party. But the Chinese Communist Party is the only party in
Oh,
China.
that
So that
was
that
when
means
I heard
anybody
that.
that's in politics of any kind, from school librarian to the mayor of Bubbaville,
Right, right.
um, is going to be thrown out.
Well, I mean, for me, it just proves that, he doesn't understand anything, because that is China, the Communist Party.
I mean, if you have a single, actually, it would be true of any country. If you have a single party, all the politics of that country will go into that party.
Hmm.
You can't
Hmm.
stop it. Now, if it wants to be a ruling party, okay, well, I mean, I'm sorry, you're going to have to figure out a way to show that the majority can express their will in some way through this tool, right?
Sure.
And like, Washington always favored a single party.
Hmm.
Because it's true, when you have multiple parties, the underlying assumption is you have a society of competitors and whose interests may be opposed. In different companies competing, management and labor, state to state, poor state, ag state to industrial state, whatever. You'd have all kinds of foundations of conflict or competition, but you
Hmm.
want to keep the nation together. How do you do that? So the two-party system is only possible because you have if it stays in bounds, right? In other words, you say, okay, well, if the legislature passes a law and the court says it's unconstitutional, then the executive will execute the decision of the court. Or conversely, the decision, if it's not challenged in court, the decision of the legislature, right?
Hmm.
And so Trump's like, broken that. He's just stepped on that, like it was a turd in the road. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So anyway, and so then it becomes a big question about, can the polarization between parties come to an agreement to continue, functioning. And we have, the federal government has grown and there's all kinds of things that bind people together, bind the states together now that didn't at one point. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
still,
find it just interesting. I've been trying to tune in a little bit to this and that and keep my sanity. Um, but I guess it is important for the Democratic Party to kind of analyze what went down with the whole Biden thing, but I think they're spending way too much time like, did everybody know if
yeah, I hear you.
Biden couldn't think straight? And it's
I
water
don't
under the
think you're
bridge.
right.
There are so many things we need to be worried about. Let's move forward, people.
I don't think there's a solution down that path of, self-criticism in that light,
Mm-mm.
I don't think that, you look at the rage of these people on the MAGA thing that are, really, they're really worked up into it. And, they feel that it is, appropriate, to basically just give the finger to anybody that disagrees with it, that challenges them,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And to be as ugly and as, as possible, right?
One thing I have been doing is kind of looking at the psychological trends of what happens in these news cycles. So when something is coming out that is kind of against Trump, then I always tune in. I'll turn on Newsmax or Fox to kind of see what they're doing with it, how they're spinning it,
Yeah.
just because it fascinates the hell out of me. And
Right.
so as soon as it was looking like the court was going to rule against him on the tariffs,
Yeah.
I I was actually chopping up some vegetables, so I'm like, I'm gonna turn on my favorite shows. And sure enough, the segment was just complete manic, antics about the transgender sports. And they took it like not talking about tariffs at all. Which was the breaking news of that day. What was it? Yesterday, the day
Yeah,
before?
when the court ruled all the
Yeah.
tariffs using emergency powers as the foundation of these so-called tariffs.
Right. So
Yeah.
this is what they go to. They go to the the fact that Trump is a real leader. He is finally giving the men of America the voice they need to rise again. And the men need to rise again and feel empowered because of Trump, because they were starting to get squashed because um, women aren't having enough babies and transgender people were allowed to play sports. And it was just this
And it's all
complete
colorized, right? It's not enough
yeah, a
white babies.
deflection of what was going on in the news.
Right.
And then I know I'm right. Like sometimes I'm just like, this can't be right, right? But then my Trumper aunt, my MAGA aunt, it was no more than like 20 minutes after I turned the TV off because I can only stomach a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Um, I get this. So it was Wednesday. I get this from my aunt. Women's rights are being violated by the liberals and Governor Newsom allowing biological men to participate in women's sports. President Trump is a hero, and he has signed an executive order keeping men out of women's sports. It is so toxic what these liberals are doing. It all started under Biden. American men are still alive and they want their country back.
Yeah, American white men.
Is that how you feel, John? Have
No,
have I
I actually
have
don't.
I
No,
been
I'm
disrespecting you all these
no,
years?
well, I mean, I'm at least 75% communist, so I got lost along the way. So it's just, when a cop shot me in the back with rock salt in 1969 on the campus of the University of Buffalo, I made a commitment that I was going to do some damage to those people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the reason why I got involved in the labor movement. And
Ah,
it's true that when they finally threw me out of Vermont because it started too many strikes. Um, but it wasn't quite like that. They wanted to have more strikes in Southern California. So they sent me there.
right,
But but anyway, yeah, it's just no, I think I think the future of the world is in, friendship between nations, and you get the whole trading, all the, trade is great. But what is question is, what is fair trade?
right, right.
I mean,
Well, and you need a leader that understands globalism.
globalism, but also the costs for example, suppose you're, and there's several African and actually South Asian countries that are like this, where you have an economy that's mostly agriculture, and the agriculture is not much above subsistence.
Hmm.
Okay, maybe staggered a little bit, but they're not going to make any money exporting food. Unless because they have too primitive in agriculture or whatever. Okay, so
Sure.
they don't have enough, and so but then but they have a small textile industry. Okay, that's the beginnings of, can we industrialized or, but and it's interesting. So then they go to the United States, and the United States says to them, well, okay, we'll buy the clothes from the textile. Well, cheap, the labor is going to be cheap, the costs they're going to be cheap textiles. And we'll buy that, and but but we'll also, the IMF will generously give you a loan to let you expand your textile manufacturing infrastructure, because it's going to cost money. You don't have a lot of money, so,
Hmm.
but if they'll let you invest. And then the IMF, just to give them the benefit of the doubt here, will calculate, okay, can they actually pay the interest on the debt, right?
Hmm.
And if and they'll calculate it like this. They'll say, okay, well, if they use all the money we loan them, to build out the infrastructure, then the productivity and the increased production and all that will end up creating a foundation for paying back the
Hmm.
debt, right? Um, but then suppose when you start, well, in order to expand, we have to hire a whole bunch of textile factory workers. And also, where are they going to come from? Well, they're going to come from the people that are growing the nearly subsistence food.
Hmm.
Okay. And what happens in the countryside, when those people leave, okay, to go to work in the thing? Well, you get this usually, well, the Chinese Cultural Revolution is a perfect example, okay, of what happens when you don't take care of all the people that get left behind in
Right.
this attempt to modernize, right? Um, and that's what happens. So the government ends up spending the loan money to try and do things about the social problems that arise, okay, as a result of this structural transition in the whole economy of the country, right? And so they can't, but then they can't pay the debt back. And then they have upheaval, and of course, then the United States security services say, if you got political upheaval, we have a security agreement here. We can help you out, so you can shoot anybody who wants to depose you. um, and so then you have unfair trade. Something's happened there because the trade agreement
Hmm.
did not calculate.
Sure.
Oh, there are side effects. People lose their jobs. Okay, who if the country makes money on the trade, who what do they do with it? Okay, do they pocket it and go, you know, and go gamble in Macau or something, or do
Right.
they actually invest in the people, like an education system or health or whatever, Anyway, I think so. You can't get to if you could get to fair trade, then everybody would most likely be friends. I don't know.
Yeah. But we're starting with the um system within our own culture that is, top heavy. So
A bit,
I don't know
just a
that
bit.
I don't know that we're the ones to go around the globe spreading the wealth.
Well, there is there's an economic theory, for example, called comparative advantage, which is really the way that they calculate gains from trade. In other words, let's suppose you grow corn and, well, take the one we just said. You got a little bit of
Yeah.
textiles, a little food, okay? And the United States has we can produce with 1.5% of the population the food to feed half the world. Okay.
Hmm.
That's how productive American agriculture is. And so we can send them the corn at half the actual real cost of their corn.
Sure.
Okay. And of course, that would also put their corn farmers out of business. You got to think about that one. So my only thing is this is if you could figure out a regime where the side effects or people that are going to be harmed by the side effects or benefit, on either end of the trade deal. Um, Fine. If the original theory was, oh, you'll make money on textiles and we'll make money on the interest payment, if that was all that was to it, okay, that's comparative.
Exactly.
Both sides gain.
Right.
Okay, but
Right.
but they're not.
Hence the word fair.
Yeah, 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 and it doesn't. It's not the whole part of fair trade because even with that deal, yes, the poor country will get richer. Okay,
I know
but the
someone who
U.S.
is,
will get even more richer.
yeah, I know someone who's pretty
So,
well versed in fair trade in the global world. Maybe I will see if I can get him to join us. He's in Manhattan. He works for the UN, but
oh yeah, that'd be a great interview.
yeah,
Jesus, yeah, absolutely.
he'd be really great to talk to about this.
Coming back to a local area, so
Did you see what I sent you?
yes, I did.
Mm.
By the way, do you know whether that's the one thing I didn't look at was the Development Commission meetings. As we know, the County Commission meets on the first and, excuse me, first and third, and
Hmm.
the school board is second and fourth.
Right.
Okay.
I have downloaded the schedules and I'm gonna try to I'm challenging myself to get to one meeting next week.
Well,
So,
let me know which one you want to go to because I'd like to go together.
okay, let's go
I
to the
think it would
first.
be fun to go together,
Yeah, let's do
and
that.
yeah, and Thursdays are great for me. So the third Thursday is when the county commission does it at night. But I think the school board would be interesting to go to because they're facing
Okay.
such a oh my
Well,
God.
let's talk off air over the weekend and decide. And
Okay.
yeah, this has been I've enjoyed this conversation this morning, and I will get in touch with my friend and see if he will join us one morning. And I am going to keep it to half an hour this morning because I have to leave this afternoon for to go to Blacksburg for a wedding. So
Oh, well, that's good. I hope, weddings are good.
yeah, yeah, it's at the resort where Dirty Dancing was filmed.
Oh my God.
I know. So
Patrick
who knows what
Swayze
kind
and
of trouble I'll get into.
what was the other actress's name? Jennifer or somebody?
Yeah, oh
Uh,
gosh, what was her last name? Baby, right? Wasn't
Baby, yeah, I can't,
yeah.
but she did okay. And then someone told her she needed a nose job.
I know.
And then she got one, and then she didn't get any roles because I bet they liked her character in the
I know. There's a lesson to be learned there.
Yes, right. Well, you can't convince anybody in Hollywood that they shouldn't restructure themselves physically and mentally,
Right,
everything else.
right.
But
Well, I like you just the way you are, and
yeah,
I hope
yeah.
you have a wonderful,
Oh, speak of, let's say, keep Billy Joel in the light, because yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. All right. Take
Okay,
care, my friend. All right, we'll we'll talk over the weekend. All right, good to
perfect.
see you again.
Enjoy.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
here's my dog. Here's Lukey. Hey, hey,
Hi,
look,
Lukey.
it's Karen. Yeah, okay,
Hi,
yeah, all
Lukey.
right, okay. Bye, bye, everybody. Take care. It's late, but everything comes next.